Hi, my name is Kristen Gerst with Capricorn Mortgage Investments. I'm going to be talking to you today about how to make top dollar with your owner finance investment. Quick overview. We're going to be talking about just basically what is owner financing, how to set up your transaction, the best way, people to use for this, yada, yada, yada. Basically, just a little bit of background on myself. I've been a full-time real estate investor since January 2005. I have rehabbed countless properties, some multiple times, when I was getting tenants in and out. So every time a tenant would leave, I'd have to go rehab that property again. And I hated being a landlord. And so in 2008, when the market crashed, I got into owner financing. I've created numerous notes for myself. And then I started finding buyers and sellers for, buyers for other investors' notes and properties. That's gone on, been involved in several hundred of these transactions, and so I teach now other investors to do it, so hopefully they will bring me their notes to sell down the road. What is owner financing? Owner financing is where you have a property, and instead of renting it out, and really, I look at those transactions similarly. You sell the property to the buyer with a mortgage note in place and a deed of trust. Basically, your cash flow mimics what you would get for your rental property. However, you are not responsible for maintenance. You are not responsible for taxes. You are not responsible for insurance. All of those things you will no longer have vacancies. And so when you start to compare your costs for running a rental property versus having an owner finance note, you will find that you actually profit more on an owner finance note, even if your mortgage PITI is $50 or $100 less per month, because you are no longer providing maintenance for this property. All of these transactions are completely legal in the state of Texas. There are certain things that you do need to follow, using a licensed RMLO. I use an attorney. I use title companies. We don't give title policy on the front end of that transaction. But you will when you go down to sell the note. So, steps to setting up a transaction. Number one, identify the property to be sold. So, you can go and find a property on MLS that is completely ready to go, or possibly you'll find a property that needs some type of rehab. In my experience with this, you can owner finance anything. You can owner finance something that needs work and offer the property with less money down to, say, somebody in the construction services so that they can get into a house easier. And you kind of give it as a credit with, you are going to record that warranty deed once they've actually finished the rehab. In addition, you can also, you can sell things that you will provide rehab afterwards. Really, the skies are the limit for what you can owner finance. Once you have your property to be sold, you are going to advertise it for sale. Best things for these, yard signs. I've sold a house within 5 minutes of sticking house for sale with owner financing. Right now, especially because there are so many people who can get a retail mortgage and qualify for a retail mortgage, the market is tight. So for every house that I have for sale with owner financing, I might have 50 people who want it. They sell extremely fast. The trick is to know exactly what you want to ask for interest rate. Negotiate terms and prepare a contract. Negotiating the terms is great because on an owner finance deal, there are so many ways to make the numbers work. You can shorten or lengthen your term. You can do a 15-year, you can do a 20-year, you can do a 30-year mortgage. If you want, I've seen mortgages that were 12 years. There is no rule, rhyme or reason of how long those have to be if you are trying to achieve a certain monthly payment. You can also change your interest rate. I tell my investors who do this, we're looking for that 9 to 10% interest rate. If you can get more, sure, but it's not necessary. It just depends on the investor who's owner financing his deal. And of course, your sales price will also differ on how much they actually put down. Hire professionals for every step of this contract. When you are once you have your buyer and you've done a 1 to 4 family contract with the seller financing addendum on the back, hire an RMLO. The RMLO is required by the state of Texas and the government, U.S. government, to make sure that we protect our buyers and our borrowers from unfair mortgage practices. When you use an RMLO, are they going to tell you yes or no? No. The end decision of whether you're going to sell the house to them is inevitably yours, but you still need to have all of that documentation that the borrower was advised of their rights and told how much house they could afford. So step 1, always use an RMLO. Always have a good attorney. Not all attorneys are created equal. I look at tons of this paper every week, and it is shocking to me how many errors that people sign. Investors and buyers. Buyers are a little less savvy, but investors, I've seen stuff that investors have signed, and it's absolutely shocking to me that they could let go. Always read your documents, and not all attorneys are great. Title company, always close at a title company. You want a legal HUD-1. Anybody who tells you that they're not going to prepare a HUD-1 for you, that is not where you want to be closing. You want to go someplace where you're going to have all legal documents, an attorney that has prepared everything, and you've got a HUD-1 that will be sent to the government for tax purposes. And finally, note servicer. I will give a shout out to mine. I absolutely love them. August REI. The folks over at August REI are incredible. They're my own personal pit bulls. They will call and call and call all of my borrowers until they are current, so I highly recommend them. So transaction example. Your sales price is $100,000. That is what that house is worth. That house is not worth $90,000 and you're selling it for more. House is worth $100,000, you're selling it for $100,000. As I tell people when I'm about ready to buy a piece of paper, if that LTV does not match up, I can't buy it. Or if I can't buy it at the usual prices I quote because the values are so out of whack. Nobody wants to buy a piece of paper, on a property that is underwater. Down payment, usually minimum 10%. Always get 10%. Make sure that your borrower does not have good credit. That is why they're doing owner finance. Hence, they need to save up money and they need to get their down payment. And that is usually a minimum of 10%. I work with investors, they insist on 20. Again, it is completely up to the investor deciding how much money they need to take down. In my example here, your down payment is $10,000, leaving financed $90,000. Note buyers do not want to buy anything that is over 80% LTV. That means right now that your financed amount is $90,000, which is 90% LTV. So you've got an extra 10% in there. So as I like to tell my investors, make sure you do a first lien at $70,000, 9% interest for 30 years. Your second lien can be any variation of that. In the second lien, I will put $20,000 at 12% interest for 15 years. Can that be changed around? Could I make them both 9% interest for 30 years? Of course, no problem whatsoever. This is just an example, and each investor who's selling their property will have their own different formula of what they want to charge for that. Bottom rule though is don't sell for less than 9% on that first lien, because note buyers do not want that piece of paper. We start to see heavy discounts on any notes under 9%. Basic contracts that you're going to use for this transaction, 1 to 4 family, and also the seller finance addendum. These are TREC contracts. You can locate them at trec.gov. Just look for the forms. There is no reason to buy a contract package from anybody. This is all public record, and it is free to anybody who wants to purchase it. That website again is trec.texas.gov. Go there for any real estate contract that you need, and don't think about buying it for anybody. So avoiding legal trouble. Again, use professionals. Pay them. The great thing with owner finance transactions, the borrower, the buyer pays all of these costs. The buyer is going to pay for the RMLO service. Those are typically around $750 to $1,000. Your buyer is going to pay all closing costs with the attorney. Again, you're looking, $1,000, $1,500, depending on who's putting the deal together. And last, the note servicer. The note servicer is amazing. Setups are usually $75, $100. Again, your borrower pays for that. And then it's also, and then they also pay the monthly servicing fee, which is anywhere from $35 to $40. Sometimes, depending on who the servicer is, you will see those higher. But with my personal favorite, August REI, who I transferred my entire portfolio to back in 2012, I believe theirs are $35. Again, I'm not sure about those prices because my borrowers pay for it. Buyer pays all fees. Transfer of ownership, very important. You are not doing contract of deed. This is a legal transfer of ownership. That means that a warranty deed has been created and it has been recorded with the county. People get very nervous about this, especially if they have wrapped a bank loan. I can tell you from personal experience, I've never had one of my bank loans called for doing a wrap. If that happens, there are ways to unwind and stop a due on sale clause foreclosure. But I've never seen the need for it, except for one time when, and it wasn't my deal, it was a fellow investor that this happened to. The underlying mortgage lien holder went through and requested with the bank to have it removed off his credit. Well, obviously, they knew something was wrong. So don't ask, don't tell. The bank does not care. They just want to continue to get their mortgage payments on time. Due on sale and land trust. I also do not like land trusts. Land trusts will cloud title. You want straight title here. If you put something into a land trust or a family trust, it makes it impossible for your buyer, your new homeowner, to homestead the property. Also, it makes it very difficult for them to get any decent priced insurance for it because it all becomes a commercial policy. Again, no land trust, just do everything as a straight style, and no contract for deed. There's no reason to be sneaky about it, even when you have underlying debt. Sources of financing. You can do conventional loans. You could go buy that house on your own credit, get a 4% interest, and then wrap around that new loan at 9%. Doing that means that you are going to get 5% on whatever that bottom amount is that you borrowed money on the house for, and then you will get 9% on your profit. It's a great way to do it until you run out of space and find that you can't get loans for anything else. I tell people that's fine, but try to get it off your credit as soon as possible. Friends and family, always a source. IRA investors, going to, Quest IRA has some great meetups. They've got investors there that are always looking to lend to real estate investors. I highly recommend people check those out. And then private lenders are hard money. Technically, it is illegal to wrap hard money because it is a short-term loan. You cannot wrap a 1-year loan with a 30-year fixed mortgage. This is where a lot of investors get into trouble. Now, hard money lenders know that this happens, and they're happy to extend it once or twice. But if your buyer has not refinanced, they tend to get very upset, and they will eventually foreclose and take that back. Hence, what do you do if you've done this? Hopefully you've created the best note possible. Here are the few steps to creating the best note. One, good down payment. Good down payment shows that the borrower has skin in the game. This is why it's always minimum 10% down. We also look at a low loan to value. Max is 80%. If you can get that down to closer to 70%, it makes it much easier to sell and you get more for your note. High interest rate, 9 to 10%. All the notes that I create, it depends on the actual value of a house, but they're usually around 9.5 to 9.9%. Realistic PITI. If you have a PITI that is off the charts and doesn't jive with what the rental is in the neighborhood, a lot of times you'll have people that realize, oh, I left the rental area and I couldn't rent my house out, you know, for what I'm paying for it on a mortgage. Sometimes it doesn't bother people, but a lot of times it does because, you know, they don't feel like they will ever see the end of it. So I like to find out what that house would rent for and make sure that I stay right about that level or just below when doing it. And next is seasoning. So when you're selling your note, seasoning is important. Once a note has been seasoned 3 to 6 months, I can buy it. As far as what to expect 85 to 90% of your sales price. Now that is 85 to 90% of the note, whatever that principal value is of a note. That is not of the value of a house. Remember, the house can be $100,000, but that note is only $70,000. And so that 85 to 90% is based on that note. In this example, there is a first and second lien, $75,000 at 9% and $15,000 at 12%. What I counsel everybody to do is sell your first lien. Your first lien takes care of all debt that is underlying on that property. So if you've borrowed from a hard money lender, you can keep this house, you can keep this note, season it for 3 months, and then sell out that first lien and pay off your hard money lender. Your hard money lender will love you and they will lend you more money that you can then go and reinvest in these houses and do another one all over again. That means you're left with your second lien. Everybody gets nervous and asks, well, doesn't that make my second lien is not as valuable? No, it's not. Because if the owner of the first lien forecloses, it wipes out the second lien. However, what I tell everybody to do is when you're setting up these notes, you have control when you're setting them up. There's a clause in the first lien that says you must contact the second lien holder before and give them first right of refusal before foreclosing on them, thus protecting your asset, your second lien asset. Because if you get first right of refusal and you can go make that property whole, you can take control of a first lien and go resell it and redo everything all over again. So in this example of the $75,000 lien, you are going to sell the first lien for $68,000. You are going to pay off your underlying debt. You are going to keep your second lien, which is roughly $150 a month cash flow. Remember, you already took $10,000 down, so you're working with $10,000 cash. You have no debt on your deal, and you also have $150 a month cash flow in perpetuity until this loan is paid off. Thus, you have cash to continue on investing or living, and you also have cash flow. Now, everybody goes, oh, $150 a month cash flow, it's nothing to get excited about. No, but I have investors right now who are currently doing 3 to 5 a month. If you're doing, 30, 40 deals a year because you have access to capital that you can consistently revive, and you have, you can just go get it anywhere and use it on, you can do this deal on any house. You don't just have to wait for somebody to maybe want a subject to their house. If you do 30 deals in a year, you're talking about, $4,500 a month. So you're going from $150 a month to $4,500 a month, and that's just plain mailbox money. It's not for doing anything else. And so learning how to build long-term wealth will eventually get you out of your day job. And make no mistake, being a realtor being a wholesaler, being a flipper. Those are all day jobs. It's not much different from working in an office. It's just a different type of job. What you're looking for is long-term cash flow that you don't have to work for. And notes is a great way to do that because it's hands-off. You have a note servicer who is managing the whole thing. Money magically shows up into your account every month. And you know, God willing, that that actual asset will stay performing for years to come. Note buyers look for high interest rate, low loan to value, good down payment, and seasoning. Number one thing, I cannot buy a note that has not been seasoned. Everybody wants it. It's the number one question. Oh, if I create this owner finance note, I'm working on being able to do that, but I can't do that yet, and most will tell you that. What I want to be able to do is still, you know, be able to hit 90% and do it at the closing table, and then be able to season it myself for, you know, 3 to 6 months before I can get it to my bigger buyers. If you have any questions about any of this material, or how to, or if you're looking to sell an owner finance mortgage note that you already have, feel free to contact me at Kristen@CapricornMortgageInvestments.com. It was a pleasure presenting this to you today.